All right.
Well, thank you all for joining us. This is our volunteer quarterly meeting, and we have Stacy Shamblott from the State Services of the Blind presenting for us about low vision and blind etiquette. And she has a great presentation today. And so without further ado, thank you so much, Stacy.
Thank you. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the handout that we sent you, but I'll talk about some of the things and some of the things will buzz past, but I just wanted you to have that reference point. So my presentation is called, Oh, My Aging Eyes, How Vision Changes with Age.
You should listen to this.
I'm a certified therapeutic recreation specialist, and I'm the Aging Eyes Coordinator, which means that I train professionals on low vision equipment to hand out to seniors so that they'll be able to benefit from it right away. I'm a low vision rehab specialist as well, and I do home assessments. And we'll talk about what that means after as we go through. If you have questions at any time, whether they're what I'm talking about or not, just throw them out and I'll answer them, okay? I can't necessarily see the chat very well, so
I'll try and keep an eye on the chat for you.
Okay, thanks. State Services for the Blind, or SSB, its mission is to facilitate the achievement of vocational personal independence by Minnesotans who are visually impaired or deaf blind. So that means that their hearing is impacted as well as their vision to be deaf blind. There's a few divisions of state services. There's a workforce that's for people who are 55 and younger or currently in the workforce, and they'll help them get job skills, maintain their jobs, things like that. The business enterprise program, if you go to a federal or county building and the vending machines, they're run by blind operators. They were hit hard by COVID, I will say, so they're just starting to come back now. And those guys actually own their own machines. It's their job to stock them and maintain them and things like that. The Communication Center provides alternative formats for books, newspapers, magazines, and anything else in print. We'll talk about that a little bit more too. So I'm in the senior unit, and so ours is the senior services, and we keep individuals as safe and independent being the key word, as possible, and use as much of their functional vision as we can. In 2021 to 2022, we served about 3,600 people with 17 staff in every county in Minnesota. We were the first unit to go back into people's homes for the state during COVID. So actually we got called out by the governor for that. So that was kind of nice. We provide skills as independent living, assistive technology, low vision aids and devices, in orientation and mobility. How do you actually get around if you're visually impaired? So the Aging Eyes program sits underneath that. So some common things that you'll hear that people will say is, I'm legally blind. So what does that mean? It means they see 20/200 or worse in their better eye. So think about the big letter E on your eye doctor's chart. They're not seeing that. The only reason you know to be legally blind is for different medical purposes and forms. Doesn't mean that you don't see. It means that you are legally blind, not totally blind. If you're totally blind, you might just see light or nothing at all. So legally blind does mean that they still can see some things. Visually impaired is 20/40 or greater in the better eye, or 20/200. So not just getting corrected by glasses. Or they have a 20-degree field cut in both eyes. So a field cut is on the sides of your eyes peripherally. So it's often common with some strokes, brain injury, brain cancer, things like that. They'll have some field vision issues, and that would make you legally blind if you have greater than 20 degrees. So what are the common... Macular degeneration is one of the leading causes: glaucoma, cataracts, diabetic retinopathy. Here's the important piece. If you have macular degeneration, you still need to go see the eye doctor, because unfortunately you can still get other eye conditions. So you still need to be seeing that eye doctor. Questions about those terms?
Stacy, while you're at a stopping point, I'm going to try some speakers to see if I can boost your volume a little bit.
Okay.
So just bear with me for a moment. I hope that, can you try now, Stacy?
Sure. Does this sound better?
All right.
All right, good.
Too loud now.
I've never really been one to be told I was quiet, so.
All right. You may continue.
All right, so macular degeneration, or MACD, is the leading cause of vision loss in older adults. So that picture that you see, how it's blurry in the center, but the sides look pretty decent, is because it affects your central vision. Now, the reason that we hear macular degeneration today versus 30 years ago is that people didn't live that long, so their macula did actually not degenerate. But when we're living to 100, I just had a 104-year-old lady who lives in her apartment by herself, you know, that's when the vision starts to decrease. So that's why we hear about it now. So there's two types. The dry mac is more common, and you don't really know you have it until you're kind of in the mid stages. And it's a little less severe, and there's nothing to treat with. The wet mac is actually fluid leaking into your macula. And so that one causes more damage, is more severe, and you can take some drops, or you actually get shots in your eyeball. And so they hurt just like you think they do. As I quote a client who said, I would have to tell you that it's like this, beep, 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 and that's how much it hurts. And I go, okay, good idea. So, but they do kind of slow the progression if it works for you. It does not work for every person. And so you'll hear some people taking shots, some people are not taking shots. Now, macular degeneration is very fluctuating disease. And what I mean by that is today I might be able to see something on the floor in front of me, and tomorrow I won't be able to see it at all. They're not faking it. It fluctuates with their eyes. So that can be hard for people to understand. So we'll talk a little bit more about advocacy and helping people understand that. Ooh, do you have feedback? Okay. Glaucoma is another eye condition. It's very common and is usually very slow in progression. When you go to your eye doctor and they put that little thing in to measure the pressure of your eye, they're looking for glaucoma. If the pressure gets too high, you can lose your vision. So that's why we monitor that closely. They'll give you some drops. Sometimes they'll have to put a shunt in your eye. It'll cause a loss of peripheral vision or vision closest to your nose. It can cause blindness. So that's why we want to be seeing those eye doctors. People don't know that they have glaucoma if they're not going to the eye doctor. So do you know anyone in Minnesota sports history who had glaucoma? I have feedback in my ear. Does anybody else have that?
A little bit.
Okay. Does anybody know who had glaucoma? Who is maybe a famous Kirby Puckett? He went blind.
I'm from Wisconsin.
Good job, Pam. Way to pull it through. I love that. So Kirby Puckett is African American, obviously. He's obese, and he didn't go to an eye doctor. And so when that pitch actually hit his jawbone, people said, "Oh, that's why his vision was decreased." No, it was because he had glaucoma that he didn't treat, and that's why he lost his vision in his eye. So it does have a higher incidence for African Americans and people who are obese. There's 3 million people in America who have glaucoma and 80 million in the world. Is that unbelievable? I think that's unbelievable stat. So right now, when you look at this picture, the boys are really clear, but the sides of the picture are shadowed out. That's what they're seeing. So cataracts, of course, this happens as we age, and a lot of people have to have them removed. So it's actually the clouding of the eye lens. And so what they do is they're going to take that lens out and they're going to replace it with a new one. This is the leading cause of vision loss in the US and blindness in the world. It's a really easy procedure. Today, people can stay awake and have their cataracts removed. My mom talked to her doctor the whole time. 20.5 million people have cataracts. So when you have cataract surgery, often both eyes have it. So when you do your first eye, unfortunately, there's this horrible waiting period. And so the new cataract eye has good vision in it typically. But your other eye still needs those glasses for the other part. So their vision is a little wonky. It's a very technical term, wonky. And so right then we can't necessarily help people. So we can help people before their surgery, or if the surgery doesn't go well, they still might have glare issues. That's why it's hard for people to drive at night blindness. They might say, oh, the yellow ball on the picture is not very bright. It's muted when you have some cataracts. Diabetics also have cataracts, and that looks different than normal, quote, normal people cataracts, but they also have to eventually be removed. Diabetic retinopathy is a common complication of insulin-dependent diabetics. So rarely do you have complications from diabetes unless you're insulin dependent. If you're, following with the doctor. If you have diabetic retinopathy, it doesn't mean that you are a bad diabetic or you're not doing your things right. There's just complications of being a diabetic. So it's actually the blood vessels in the retina start to bleed. So if you think about your glasses and you take a Sharpie and just squiggle a line down the middle, it's red. You can see that in a person's eye. That's their bleed. So their vision looks like Swiss cheese. So where you see those black spots, that's where they've had a bleed, and that is not recoverable vision. They will not get that black back. Diabetic retinopathy is the leading cause of blindness among working age people. So no matter if you have MACD or glaucoma or any of these, if you lose vision, you will not get it back. So we work with what you have and try and lessen it from going faster. That's checking your glaucoma pressures, that's, seeing your eye doctor regularly, things like that. Questions about any of those eye conditions? Okay. So how do you know if your clients or you call them clients, right?
Yes.
Clients, okay. Have vision loss? Well, early vision loss may not be recognized right away. First of all, it's age related, so it's usually developed slowly. They're often misunderstood signs or ignored. Their primary disability is a stroke, we'll say, but their vision loss is affected because of the stroke. And if you think about in reality, the vision loss is the most important piece because we can't do stroke rehab if we can't get them to be able to see the exercises or understand the exercises or things they're going to do. So kind of a double-edged sword there. So we have to treat that vision loss. Older people and sometimes their families don't want to admit we have problems. I don't want to be dependent on someone, so I'm just going to ignore it. And we don't want to give up driving. And that is a huge piece for people, and one that I get. I mean, I get it. I wouldn't want to give up my car either, but at the same time, you have that great program for transportation. You can always go with churches, there's other organizations that do rides. So I always help people understand that there's other options, and that it's not that they're probably not a good driver, but let's be honest, the world is very aggressive, and there's a lot of aggressive drivers today. And so are they going to be able to see enough and react fast enough to avoid those problems? And God forbid they should hurt somebody. So I always like to have some backup plans before I talk about driving is maybe not your best idea. I wouldn't share this with our clients, but I will say that by state law, the only people to pull your license is the DMV and the doctor. So we can make their recommendations. We can encourage them not to drive, but we cannot pull your license. If you have night blindness, you can still drive, but they might restrict you to not driving at night. So then winter would be a different hours that you could drive. They can also restrict your license to how far you can go. Oh, no more than 30 miles an hour, not more than 10 miles from your house, things like that. The most common thing you hear from people is, I just drive to the grocery store and come home. But who thinks that the grocery store parking lot is the most dangerous place in America? I personally think that's bad. So but they need groceries, they need food. So that's their only option, is what their thoughts are. So we can help them with that. So we go to the eye doctor, we learn that we have MACD. We're just starting out, we'll say. The people can go through many stages of grief for their eyes, just like you would do with a loved one that you lost. I don't have a vision loss, we're total in denial. Depression, I can't do anything by myself. Anxiety, how will I be able to do anything on my own? Loss of independence, I have to rely on others. When I'm the one that does, I'm the ringleader of my group, I help everybody. I have to go to the nursing home now, because 25 years ago, if you had a vision loss, you went straight to the home. No one thought you could live independently or do things. And so that's still a real fear for people. So you have to grieve for your eyes. So if you have MACD and you kind of go through these stages, some people will go through all of them. Some people will go through 2 of them. And then they kind of get settled, I'll say. And they wake up one morning and their vision decreased again. They need to, again, go through the process of adapting to what their new vision loss is. So it's a roller coaster ride. So we want to make sure that they have a support system. So that's one of the questions, you could always ask are, do you have someone to talk to? Family members, maybe someone in the religious or, organizations? Do you have your doctor explain it to you? Do you understand it? Things like that. So what are some things you can help them with if you're actually in their home, or make suggestions to them? You want to have the light behind them, not in front of them, so that it projects onto the paper. A lot of the new LED light bulbs are really great, but we want to make them in soft white because the bright ones provide too much glare for people. Glare is just an issue. So sunglasses, we have special glasses that we can help people with. They go over their regular glasses. Wearing a hat, or ask people to turn down the lights. So I'm in my formal dining room and I have a banking light, so I can make it lighter or darker by just changing the button. So if you go to a doctor's office and you notice they have 2 light switches, that's called banking. So you can ask them to turn one down. The other thing that's really helpful is contrasting. So light objects on dark background. So think about your coffee table is brown, typically. Your coffee you drink is brown. And how many people have dark mugs? So let's change it up and have a lighter mug, so that when you put it on the brown surface, you can see it. Also, you could then see more of the liquid in it. The things that you line your drawers with in the kitchen or bathroom, you can put that on things too to provide contrast, because they come in color. So like when people stay at hotels, sometimes I have them bring something like that, or a colored napkin, and lay their watch or their jewelry on the nightstand so they can see it. Different textures, different sizes help people also. Organization is the key for people with vision loss. However, it's not what we think is organization, it's what works for them. So we can mark their different objects to help them, but we want to keep things in the same place. So I have a woman that loves soup. And so she loves chicken and rice, chicken and stars, and something else. And she likes Campbell's and Healthy Choice. So she did each type of soup by brand in a row. So all the Campbell's chicken and rice were in one row, and then the next one was Healthy Choice, same type, and she alternated them so she knew where things were. And her daughter was very kind and went to take her grocery shopping and brought the groceries, and like, well, that's dumb. Why would you want all the Campbells together? And she moved it, and the mother was hysterical, to say the least. And then they started to fight. And so I was called in and I said, I understand what you're saying, but this is how your mom needs it to be. This is what works for her. So let's work together to find a good system so that you understand why your mom has it like this. Just ask her before you move things. In and out baskets are helpful for mail. Do they need mail read right away? Or do they think it's junk mail? How to kind of help people with that. The other thing is with organization, I was talking to actually a community partner of mine who's visually impaired, and she said, how do you know what your conditioner is? I go, that's a good question. What do you mean? She said, well, I buy the same shampoo and conditioner. Like, yeah, me too. She said, but I can't see the difference. They're the same size bottles, obviously. She said, I take a rubber band, I put it on the conditioner. Things are just so, people think of their own unique tips and tricks. And so if it works for them, it's great. We don't have the answers necessarily. We can say what we've heard, but we're always willing to help out in that. Questions about that? Okay, I'm trying to keep this eye on time too. Okay, so what can you do if you have vision loss? This is kind of a loaded question, I'm not going to lie. In 1999, I started Vision Loss Resources Community Center. It's in the Twin Cities for blind and visually impaired people. They had 2 existing programs, and by the time I left 13 years later, I ran 35 programs a month for 350 people. We did everything. The answer is a person with vision loss can do anything they want to do. They just have to do it differently. They can still read, but now they're going to listen to books, or maybe they're going to use large print books. They can still play cards. We have special cards that are the same size, but larger print. And when you play cards, think about how hard it is to get your cards off a table when you play cards. Use a cereal bowl, and when people lay down their cards, have them call them out. Then you'll know what's in the bowl. Same with like bridge, call out the dummy hand, read it in its entirety. Those are some really easy. There's tactile cribbage boards, all kinds of different games that can be adapted. Religious things. There's Bibles. There's Bible study on tape. Ask to have that stuff ahead of time for people that want to go to Bible study. People who want to be religious and go to church or synagogue, they still want to do that even if they're visually impaired. That's important to them. You can get the daily bread. Is that what it's called? I hope. On audio base. They have every type of religious Bible known to mankind on audio. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. Arts and crafts, knitting, crocheting, quilting, paper quilling, basket weaving, beading, clay, anything can be adapted, especially if you're 70 or older and you've been doing it since you've been a child. For knitters, if you make a mistake, and then we're going to use your fingers to feel it because you might not be able to see it. So there's so many different ways to do art, painting. I have an oil painter, and she does beautiful work. We took string and we outlined what she wanted to do, that she wanted to paint inside. So she knew to stay in her parameters. And then when she changed it, then someone in her house changed what she was working on. She does beautiful work. So there's so many things you can do. You can go to a play with audio description. You can watch a movie or real TV. So what is audio description? Audio description is going to tell you what you can't see with your eyes. For example, Sound of Music. Has everybody seen Sound of Music at least 30 times? Okay, great. So in audio description, the live describer is there while they film the movie. And they describe everything that your eyes should be seeing without interrupting the actor. So the opening scene will say, Julia Andrews, who's Maria, is dancing in the hills. The grass is green, the sky is blue, her arms are outstretched. She's wearing a colored dress with a white apron, and as soon as she speaks, they stop. For Saving Private Ryan, that very gruesome beach scene where the leg goes flying all over? Everything is audio described. It's not edited. It's straight up whatever you should see with your eyes is what you'll hear from them. So it enhances people's viewing. It doesn't take away from that. So you can get audio description on regular TV. If the shows do not have audio description, they will have no volume, and that's to tell a totally blind person it's not working. The streaming services all have access as well. Not everything has to be audio described, but a lot of things are. When you go to a play, there's a live person describing the play as it happens. So I took people to the Chanhassen and the Guthrie, and we saw the Christmas Carol. And prior to the play opening, we went behind stage and described the scenery, the costuming, the coloring, because sometimes the colors impacted the generations of like classes of people. And then when like the big clock comes out on stage, the describer was describing it, saying the hands are set at 12 o'clock. As soon as the character speaks, the describer stops. So it only enhances the people's viewing. You do not pay more for audio description for any reason. That's part of the ADA. Spectrum, if you have techie people, has an app. It's a cable company that you can do on demand, quote on demand, audio description for movies and TV shows. So that's available even if you don't have Spectrum as a cable company. Questions about audio description? Okay. How do you do an exercise class, do you think? We'll talk aerobics. Shall we talk aerobics? Aerobics. How are we going to do aerobics class? I know some of you do aerobics. Any ideas? Oh, Pam, I'm going to pick on you, Pam. Oh, you're muted. There you go. Yeah.
Me? I was okay. Because I answered before, I might do
That's right, because I know you know the answer. How are you going to do it?
Well, I guess I don't know.
Well,
I
when
do
the instructor stands in front of you, instead of just saying, watch me, they're going to describe their positions. Or they're going to maybe do hand on hand for somebody, especially like chair aerobics is great because people do what they can in any class at this point. And so I thanks Pam for answering. I appreciate it. Picking on you. Sorry. So I taught a woman who was totally blind yoga, like the cat dog pose thing. I'm not very flexible at all. So that was kind of a fun little experience. So we had a video and we would play it. As soon as she went into a pose, I would stop it and then I would do the pose and then she'd put her hands on me because it's not something you can kind of describe some other things. So they felt it. So we did for about a week and a half. And then she went to community ed and took a regular yoga class because when they said we're doing the cat pose, I just make this up, I'm not very good at yoga, she knew what it was, and so she had a really good time with it. So any of the classes can be adapted. Just ask them for what they need. Do they need the handouts ahead of time? Can they make them in large print? You know, what can be helpful for them? If you want to go out to eat, have someone read you the menu, but make sure you read it in the entirety with prices, description, things like that. Do you want to know where your food is located on your plate? If you go shopping, do you guys have a Target, Walmart, Cub, Hy-Vee? When you go there, if you call ahead, they will help you shop. For the Americans with Disabilities Act requires reasonable accommodation to shop. So they will go around with you and help you pick out your food, read the labels if you need it, take them to your car, you know, your needs, but nobody has staff. So I encourage people to call a day in advance, let them know that you're going to be coming around 10 o'clock and you'll need someone to shop with you. So that's always available and that is a law. Sometimes you have to educate people that it's a law, but they will do it. For most reasons, most people want to help. They just don't understand how to help. Questions about any of that? Okay. So some basic blind etiquette, and a lot of this I'm telling you is because I want you to help your people be able to advocate for themselves. So obviously they want to be treated like anyone else. And this is something you'll see. If you're with someone as their volunteer and you take them to the doctor, they'll ask, where is she going? They won't speak to the visually impaired person, they'll speak to you. So we want to make sure that they're speaking to the person that's visually impaired. So I took a woman shopping at Eden Prairie. We were at Penny's. She was totally blind. She'd been blind since 12 or 13 years old. She was a strong advocate for herself. So we had this whole pile of Christmas stuff, and the woman goes, well, what does she want to pay with? I go, I don't know. You could ask her though. So Dolores is her name. And she said, you can talk to me directly. So she starts taking the clothes off the hanger and she looks again at me and she goes, well, does she want the hangers? And Dolores goes, so my name is Dolores and you can speak to me. And the third time she did, and it's Christmas and there's a line behind us a mile long. And I thought this is not going to end well, but I'm just going to go for the ride. So the third time she goes, well, do you think she has cash? Dolores goes, drop the merchandise. We're out of here, Stacy. And we left everything because she wasn't respectful to Dolores, no matter how many times we said. So everyone behind us started to clap for Dolores. It was a beautiful moment, actually. So, helping people say, you need to talk to me is a really good advocating skill. When you enter or leave a room, you want to say, hey, it's Stacy, or hey, it's Stacy, I got to go back to a meeting. When you're talking to some of them, call them out by name. Hey, Holly, how are you? Because if you're visually impaired in a group, you have no idea who they're talking to because you're not tracking their vision, right? Now, visually impaired people will follow your voice and they will track it, but that doesn't mean they know who you're talking to. And it's hard for them to remember everyone's voice. So always try and identify yourselves. When you go up into a room, make sure the door is either open or closed, but not part way. Same with cabinets, because people don't expect them to be half open, so they sometimes run into them. Don't rearrange their furniture or their personal belongings, and push in your chair. So when you're around a table, you don't think that there's a chair sticking out. So when you get up, push in your chair, and then if you see someone getting up that's visually impaired and you notice that they have those long coats, like in winter, like I wear a longer coat now because it's ungodly cold. You want to let someone know there's a coat in the back of my chair. Do you need some help? Just so that they're aware. The other thing you don't want to do is leave a blind or visually impaired person, I call it hanging, which is probably not nice, but alone without knowing where they are. So I went through extensive blindness training under the blindfold, and I can get lost in a paper bag with my vision. So with blindfold on, I probably have no hope whatsoever. So I just started at the job, and we were going up and down the steps, and finally get up the steps again. And the guy goes, I got to go take this call. And he left me. I was so scared that I was going to fall down the steps because I had no idea where I was. And I'm sure it was 30 seconds or less, but for me, it was a lifetime. This was in 1999. And I'm still a little bitter, actually. And so he comes back and he goes, well, let's get started. I go, you're a nasty human being. Why would you do that to me? I was scared out of my mind. And I whipped off my blindfold and he goes, well, did you learn anything? I go, did I not state that you're a nasty human being? And he goes, yeah, did you learn anything else? And people are laughing behind me. Well, I didn't know my CEO and my COO were behind me. So that would have made I felt more safe. I'd felt more secure if I'd known someone was behind me. And I said, don't ever leave a blind person hanging. He goes, well, then my point was taken. I go, we are so done training today because I'm done. He goes, let's keep going, Stacy. And I'm like, fine. But I did. I could take off my blindfold and figure out where I am, but they cannot. And so it has really impacted me because I was terrified I'd fall down those steps. So get them to a table, hang them with, here's a chair, here's a wall, whatever. If you want to go back somewhere, they'll tell you what they need, but don't just assume they're good in the middle of the hallway because they don't necessarily know where they are. There's really people good who are orientators, and there's people that can never orientate. And that's just who they are as a person, and then their vision impacts that. So I have one guy that could never get out of the bathroom in the building. I was there for 13 years. He went to like 3 programs a week. Could not get out of the bathroom. So I just wait for him to go to the bathroom. I'd take him back to the program and we'd be good because I knew he couldn't do it. Others, I'll be back, Stacy, and they're good. That was fine. They were comfortable, but not everybody is. So just ask what they need. You don't have to watch your words. You can say, did you read a good book or what'd you watch on TV? They don't care. Don't pull them or steer them. Ask them if they need help. Someone talks about how they went across the street. They were doing orientation mobility training. And so they had to go across the street to the left, we'll say. And all of a sudden this guy grabs her and takes her across the street. He took her to the right and she had no idea where she was. And so she actually did, because she had a pattern that she was supposed to run and she was listening for traffic and doing everything she needed to do. And so she said, I thank you, but I don't actually know where I am now. And her trainer was behind her. So he came up and helped her. But, you know, again, just ask, what do they need? Has anyone worked with a guide dog before? Okay, so guide dogs are different than service animals or companion dogs. A guide dog is meant to be the eyes of a visually impaired person. So from birth, they are trained to be in a harness while they're working and follow commands to do what they need to do. They go to the bathroom or park, it's called, at certain times, and they're meant to never bark, shake. You know, they sit under the desk or wherever the person is, and they just are there as a tool for them to use. So we don't touch them or acknowledge them, because if a dog becomes friendly with me and sees me across the street, they could veer the person into traffic and the person wouldn't know. So that's why we don't acknowledge them. When they're out of harness, they're a dog, pet them, have fun with them, whatever. But while they're in harness, they're a working animal. So it's not the animal that's not good if they're not doing the right thing. It's the owner who's not giving good commands. So during 9/11, there's a gentleman who was blind, totally blind, and he got his whole unit out of the tower with his guide dog, because he was able to give the dog commands to get them all down safely. It wasn't the dog knew where to go. It was the owner knew how to get them down. So not everyone can have a dog. They go through extensive orientation mobility training. They have to do psychological battery of tests. They have to be physically able to walk them so many miles, and they have to be willing to fly to another state and stay for a few weeks to learn to be trained on the dog, because we do not have a school in Minnesota. Questions about dogs? All right. If there's something serious going on, just tell them in a calm manner. They will follow your lead. If a chair has wheels on it, you want to let them know that. And what I do is I just put my foot behind the base of the chair so it doesn't roll when they sit down. If you see that they have a spot or something on their clothing, just let them know privately, because I wouldn't want someone to tell me if I had a huge stain. And so I think that's how I should treat all people. If in doubt, ask them, what can I do to help you? So sighted guide. So the best way to help a person with visual impairments, instead of taking their hand and holding it, is that they're going to take your elbow right here, a little bit above it, and they're going to walk with you. So by holding onto your elbow, they can walk side by side as long as the space permits it. And when it gets narrow, you're going to tuck your elbow in closest to your body, and that tells the person to get behind you because it's a narrow space. You also want to let them know if it's what are the conditions they're walking in. Is it pavement? Then it goes to like a dirt road. Is it going to be icy? Things like that. Let them know that. Judge what they walk under. I'm 4'10" and a half if I'm having good hair, actually. So I walk under everything, and I don't think twice about it. Like those trees in the malls and all, I just buzz right through there. So I was walking with a guy in a walking club. And he was like 6 foot, and I didn't pay attention, and I clipped him right into the tree. And he started to laugh. He goes, "You went right under it, didn't you?" I go, "Well, yeah." So after that, I knew I had to look up to see what was around me. And if you're a taller person, then that's probably not an issue, but as a shorter person, it's a big issue. Don't count their steps, don't count stairs, things like that. Everybody counts differently. So if you're going to go to the steps, you're going to stand at the top of the steps. If there's a railing, ask them if they want to take the railing. When you get to the bottom of the step, at the last step, you're going to stand there and they know it's done. Because a lot of old classy buildings, the railing ended and there's still 2 steps left. So you watch people fall down these steps or up these steps all the time. So that's why we don't count the stairs, because is it 1 or is that 2? So just let them know that you're down at the bottom. Questions about sighted guide? So communication center. We are very fortunate in the state of Minnesota that we started one in 1953 and it's free. It provides services for any kind of alternative formats for reading. In order to be qualified, you have to be visually impaired, making it difficult to read despite corrective lenses. So that doesn't mean I need to get bifocals, or physically unable to hold a book. You could have temporary vision loss, a reading or learning disability, blindness. My son uses it because he has severe migraines and goes visually impaired. So lots of different reasons about why you could use this. So the first one is a radio talking book. It used to be a physical radio with 1 station. That is gone. And we created an app. The reason the radios are gone is because it didn't work when you were in a city kind of on the border. So if you live kind of by Hudson, the radio cut off. Up further north, cut off. So we decided to go with an app. So this is a free news and information service called Radio Talking Book. We were the first in the nation to have this in 1969. We do not have talk radio. We do not have commercials, and we do not have music or advertising. It is straight scheduled programming. They read the newspapers, including local. They have a chair aerobics program, all kinds of things. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it always has been. But now with the app, you can go into the archive section and listen to the newspapers instead of waiting at 6 a.m. to hear them. You could leisurely listen to them at 10 a.m. So you can do it on the smartphones, tablets, Alexa, Paul Bunyan cable, or our website. You can activate it that way too. So volunteers are trained and not everyone passes. So Garrison Keeler, y'all know Prairie Home Companion. He tried to read for us and he did his test and he kept kind of like putting tone and inflection and kind of ad-libbing a little. And they said, you can't do that. You got to read straight of what it is. So he did it again and they said, I'm sorry, you can't read for us. So they wouldn't take him. So they want it to be just what you're reading, not to add to things. The next thing is books on tape. So these black players are about the size of a large Kleenex box, rectangular. Every button you touch talks to you. So you'll notice that there's a moon shape or a crescent. That is actually a sleep timer. There's a tone, a speed, and a volume button. When you first learn to listen to books, you'll listen at a slower pace. The more you listen, the faster your pace will be. And if anyone's sitting around you, you'll be like, what? What does it say? But they know what it says because that's how they listen. So that's a player. So the white thing is the cassette. It has a USB drive in it. And that cassette has 5 books in it. And you literally pop it in, you hear it click, and it starts talking to you. It comes in that royal blue case with their name on the outside. When they're done, they're going to turn their name around and put it in any mailbox free matter for the blind. They do not pay for anything. They don't pay for anything with state services for blind. No equipment, no anything. Now, if they're techie, they can use our downloading service called BARD, B-A-R-D, and there they can pick the books for them. We also have Bibles of every religion. So why would I use this versus my local public library? It's a good question. So this library is nationally based. They do not need author's permission to record anything. They can record by federal law. They are unabridged, always. and they're done by professional readers. They also tell you if it has sex, explicit descriptions of sex, violence, or swearing. So it is a great quality of listening, and it's a great service. And again, it's free. Questions about books on tape or radio talking book?
How do I get a client involved with that?
So,
Hello? I just heard.
hear me?
How do I get a client
Okay.
to get involved with that?
So either I can fill out their forms or they can be seen by a community partner, an Aging Eyes community partner. It has to be someone certified to fill out their forms. So
The staff, Kate Jurek, she's our
Yep.
senior advocate, and she is a partner and can help.
sometimes that's their first way to, well, let's say, hook them to state services and to acknowledge that they have a vision loss, is because people who read want to read. People who want to read a Bible want to read a Bible. So this sometimes is a way to kind of start that conversation. Newspapers. Newspapers are so hard to read because of the type of paper they use. So we do have a phone service. It's called the National Federation for the Blind Newsline. It has 300 state, local, and international papers and some magazines. Again, it's a code. So we'll pick Rochester, was it the Times? I always get these mixed up. Well, Rochester paper has a code, and each section has a code. And so either a landline or a smartphone, you can enter the code and then you can listen to the paper in its entirety, or you could just listen to the sports page if all that's you want. Or you like sports and you want to listen to, we'll say the Kansas City paper because we're talking Super Bowl, and you want to listen to New York, and you can listen to all these papers. You do not need a subscription to these papers. You need to be registered with NFB. It is a computer generated voice. So, but it's a good computer generated voice, I'll say. And so that's also available for people. Questions about any of the newspapers? Okay, so Angela Crystal is your counselor for your counties. And we provide a home assessment if people want that, where we will come in and provide an assessment, see what we can help them look. We look for safety. We look for how to maintain their vision. Do they need some help with cooking? We can mark their appliances like their microwave, things like that. So this is Angela's contact number. Again, you don't pay for anything. Oh, and I see Kathy has a kit, so that's great. So it has so Katie has magnifiers, talking keychains, large print timer, large print word finds, bold paper, a signature guide. So it's a little size of a credit card and it has a box in it where you can sign your name. If people are writing checks, we have that, a check guide, a special pen called a low vision or 20/20 pen. It looks like a felt tip or a Sharpie, but it doesn't bleed through. So these are things Katie can provide right on the spot. If they need more, then a counselor will come in, Angela, to do that assessment. Not every piece of equipment, those are the glare glasses, so they go over your glasses. Not everything we offer fits everybody, and so that's why we want to make sure. Signature guide.
So you put it on your check or something you were signing so that you know where to do that.
And usually people put their pen where they want them to sign. See what else you have in there?
Oh, then there's these bump dots.
So that's going to mark their microwave, their stove, their oven. I've done a slow cooker, washer, dryer, dishwasher. You mark a few spots so that people know where to go because they can't see the buttons.
And
so
can get ones that glow in the dark.
Yeah, I usually do orange because most people can see that on black or white. If it's small, like a remote control, I might use nail polish to mark up things because it's too big for the bump dot. So those are just some of the things we can help you with. We can help people. I had a woman that wanted to make her own microwave popcorn because she liked popcorn every night. So we marked her microwave and then we showed her how to use her microwave. So that's something we could provide for her. So again, it's free. Oh, needle threader.
Okay.
So that looks weird, but each hole is sized for the eye of the needle. You put the eye down, you push the thread in the little valley, and then you push the white thing out and you pull up the needle and it's threaded. It's super easy. Even I can do it. And I won't say I can thread a needle actually. So limited skills there I have. So
And then we have a lighted magnifier.
yep. So that's a basic 3x magnifier. And so that is where you're going to hold the magnifier and the paper together to see where you see the best. So you can't put it on the paper. It will not work. Now the magnifier is my starter. So if people see that and they go, oh yeah, it's nice. It doesn't work for them. We want them to be excited about it. You know, oh, this is great. We go up to 16 times magnification. So that's a 3 and we go to 16. So lots of choices out there. And that's the kitchen timer. So it's tactile. You can feel it as well as contrasting. Some people can see it. And again, we can bump it. So if you always have to have 30 minutes for something for like maybe your medicine, I put a bump dot on 30.
So for those of you in the room, I'll leave this and you're more than welcome to take a look at it. And then we even have little magnifier.
Oh yeah, someone gave that to her. That we don't, people don't love those. It kind of depends on why you want it. The 3x magnifiers fit nice in your purse. The stronger, this is weird, the stronger the magnification, the smaller the head of the magnifier is. So you see less in the view, but it'll be stronger in power. It's a little counterintuitive, I think, actually, for myself. Other questions?
Is there a store where you can get any of this stuff?
You don't want to buy it. We're going to provide it. So I think my biggest thing is that people, I just talked to this woman, she goes, I have 6 magnifiers. I go, okay, can you see out of any of them? No. She paid for all of those magnifiers and we would have given it for free. So I'd rather us try it. If we can't provide it for you, we will tell you where to get it and line you up with that. We work very closely with the Low Vision store in St. Paul. But I hate for people to spend their money and then you can't return them. So if they are, trying a magnifier, they think it's okay, we could maybe make it good. So we can provide a lot of stuff one time. There is a large print calendar in there, maybe. Is there a huge calendar in there?
No.
Okay, let me grab it. Hang on.
And these items that are here, Kate can give for free. So if someone signs up for the service, then they can receive these.
Is this only in Olmsted County?
Well, there are, in every county, there should be some aging eye partners.
Angela literally covers your whole county. Every county you guys serve. So this is a large print calendar. So that's how big the boxes are. And so we provide this as well, but unfortunately we can do it once, not every year. And so we'll help you order them for people and then they would pay for them. But otherwise we'll change out your magnifiers. If we have donated products, if something breaks, we'll send that out as well. So we try really hard not to have you spend your money because your tax dollars pays for this equipment. So that's how that kind of works. So I have 800 aging eyes partners in the state of Minnesota, and I'm training 25 more next week. So depending on what they need, Katie does a great job for us. And she can always send out a counselor as well. You can refer to a counselor yourself. Here's the thing, there's no hoops to jump. I always hear it's hard to do. Literally, you make the call to me or to Angela and we set it up for you. So it's not a lot of paperwork or anything like that. We will take care of that part on our end. We really need from you name, address, date of birth, and eye condition if we can get that. If his eye condition is not known, we're good with that too.
We also get the talking book topics and the talking book catalog.
Yes, so that's where they get to know what's new in the system and the description of each book. So instead of reading the jacket of your book, it comes on this topics magazine. And the librarians in Faribault, Minnesota are so knowledgeable about books. You know, I consider them old-fashioned librarians where they really want to know about books. And I read a book every 2 days. And so one day I was talking to her, I'm like, hey, do you have any more books like this person? She gave me 9 more authors I've never even heard of. So they know their stuff. So I think you should go though, but you can always call me too. This is my information. I'm happy to talk to you about it. We typically work Monday through Friday, I will say. Having said that, I sometimes I check my email sometimes on the weekend too. So whatever works for you is easy for us. That's my cell phone. You can text me as well. However you want to send information to us, we're good with.
Well, thank you so much, Stacy.
Sure.
I love the practical information and resources. And if anybody has any other questions, you're welcome to stay and ask. Otherwise, thank you all for coming today. I hope you thought this was useful. I'm also considering having someone from the state who works with the deaf and hard of hearing as well, and that might be really helpful.
That would be really helpful. They're my partner too.
Yes.
They do great stuff.
Any other questions from the group on Zoom? And I didn't see anything in chat. So.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a nice week.
Everybody.
Thanks,
Have a good
Stacy.
day.
Bye.
Thank you, Stacy.
Sure.
Would you think that the best place to start was if you had somebody you want to recommend is to come to the